Welcome back to Up the Villa. This is our opposition preview for Aston Villa v Juventus. I'm joined by Nima from the Italian Football Podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm good. Good to be with you.
Yeah, so I'm here today to get a real good insight into everything Juventus. Villa fans have been enjoying these episodes, so make sure you are hitting the like button. Let's have a target of 800 likes and comment your thoughts in the comment section down below. So, Nima, Juventus, their history, their success, break it down to us a little bit.
Well, I mean, it is without a doubt the most domestically successful club in Italian football history, with well over 30 Serie A titles. Depends on who you ask, how many that is, after the Calciopoli scandal, of course. But no, there's no doubt that we're talking about one of the giant clubs in world football, one of football aristocracy even. Not too successful in terms of Champions League wins. In fact, they've lost more finals than any other club. 7 losses, 7 finals. So no, but we are talking about a club that has had some of the greatest players of all time play for it, from Platini to Zidane to Scirea to Unizov, Buffon, Cannavaro. You know, we're talking Del Piero and so on, and Baggio. I mean, I could go on forever. So we are talking about one of the greatest football clubs of all time.
Some Villa fans will notice some of the names that you've mentioned who have played at Villa Park. 1983, the year after Aston Villa won the European Cup, we got knocked out to Juventus. So you've mentioned Platini. So this was the team that came to Villa Park. Villa lost, and Juventus went on to lose this final, like what you've touched on. But Platini, Rossi scored in the first minute. So Villa didn't touch the ball until Rossi put that goal in the back of the net at Villa Park. So some of these players, how good were some of these?
I mean, Boniek, Rossi, Platini, Tardelli, Bettega, Scirea, Cabrini, Gentile, Zoff. I mean, we're talking legends. There's no other way to put it.
Yeah, so our success rate against Juventus probably isn't the greatest then. So how are Juventus doing this season in Serie A? Then we had a Bologna fan who was very upset about losing Thiago Motta from Bologna. He's now the manager of Juventus. So how has he been adapting to life at Juventus?
Look, Thiago Motta let's remember who he was as a player. He won a treble with Inter. He won lots of titles with PSG, with Barcelona. So we're talking about one of the best players, one of the best midfielders of his generation. He's used to winning. He knows what it takes to win as a player. He's won pretty much, every title there is to win several times. So he's a serial winner as a player. He did really well at Bologna when he took over there. He overperformed. He improved lots of players. Calafiori, who's now at Arsenal, Joshua Zirkzee, who's unfortunate enough to have an advisor to tell him to go to Manchester United, which is the death of all footballers nowadays. Look, he improved so many players, and he's a young coach. He's a very exciting coach. There's no doubt in my mind that he's going to be a big coach. He's going to coach the biggest clubs in Europe. He's already at one. He's at Juventus, Juventus who are trying to find their way back after the last historic era when they dominated Serie A, won 9 league titles in a row, 2 Champions League finals, 4 league cup doubles, who've struggled with financial problems, but also some issues in terms of following financial laws and regulations, which led to the entire board and the previous management having to be sacked. And then, of course, now Giuntoli came from Napoli after performing a miracle there. winning the league, building a super team with them, with Spalletti managing to to get it right. And now he's at Juve, and he's brought in a coach who is a very modern coach in the sense that he has a very modern attacking identity, but he's also very, very pragmatic. This is someone who doesn't like to concede too much. He doesn't like to. He's very organized. But above all, his teams, especially Juve this season, are a team that never ever know when they're beaten. They repeatedly score late in games to win, even when they're down to 10 men, as we've seen in the Champions League. So it's a tricky side, but this is year zero for them. This is the very first year under Thiago Motta. They did lots of things in the transfer window, refurbishing and rebuilding. They've been very, very unlucky with injuries. They're absolutely decimated in defense. Bremer, Cabal, ACLs, it's insane. The number of ACLs just in their defense alone. So they are decimated in defense, and it's Bremer is one of the best central defenders in the world, especially defensively, and his loss will definitely hurt them in the Champions League for sure.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good players. Yildiz, Locatelli, who I really like. The big one for me is I really like Vlahovic up front. I think he's brilliant. So who would you say are their best players when you look at them?
Look, I think Teun Koopmeiners, Nico Gonzalez, Vlahovic is supposed to be one of their best players, but he's not really done well at Juve. One could even actually argue that so far he's been kind of a disappointment, if not a flop even. And this is last chance saloon this season for him. Given that he's got, I think, 2 years left on his contract, they need to start negotiating a new deal. In December, there's reports of talks beginning, but he's not warranted an increase in salary these years that he's been there. So if he doesn't improve and he doesn't start scoring goals and more consistently and delivering for Juve, there's a very big chance he could leave the club next summer, especially also given the high salary he's on. But Kenan Yildiz is, Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz are the future of football, if you ask me. I mean, the Real Madrid kid and this kid who is, his big idol was Alessandro Del Piero, and he is very reminiscent of Del Piero in the style in how he plays. They are just little wonderful little magical players. Yildiz especially is a player that is incredibly exciting to watch, and it's nice to see Juve rebuilding around young talented players. Savona, another one who's really, really been impressive this season, came from the next gen, the youth team setup. He was called up to Italy for the first time this past international break. So no, it's a Juve that is finding its identity again. I think this is the most Juve that Juve have looked for at least a decade.
So talking about a player that used to play for us, this is probably why most Villa fans are watching this, because they want to hear about Douglas Luiz, a player that was instrumental for Villa for big parts last season under Unai Emery, guided us to staying in the Premier League and getting Champions League football. So from an onlooker, he's not starting games, and at Villa he was one of our best players, so good in central midfield. I think when they signed Koopmeiners, I was a little bit like, there's two new signings coming into a midfield. So how's he been doing for you?
There's three with Kefren Turam as well. I mean, if we're talking, they've completely rebuilt their midfield. Look, Douglas Luiz has been an unmitigated disaster so far. Let's not beat around the bush. He has been an absolute disaster so far. If he's not giving away penalties or getting sent off or losing the ball, it's just not worked out for him so far at Juve. It doesn't mean that it can't work out for him, but so far it has been awful. It has been absolutely awful. And they spent a lot of money on him. So there is a concern, but Juve are kind of calm right now. They understand it's a big, acclimate, a big change going from the EPL to the Serie A, far more tactical league. Than the Premier League is, and he's they do give him time, and they're not too stressed about it. But yes, it is a cause for concern, because he right now he doesn't get into the Juve team, because whenever he's played, he's really caused all sorts of problems, and he's been a liability for Juve, if we're perfectly honest. But that's how it's been so far. It doesn't mean that it can't change, of course.
And what about that deal in general? Because it did feel, from a Villa point of view, that it was a bit of a PSR sort of scenario for us. We got Ealing Jr. and Barrenetcha. So do you feel like Villa got the better deal with those two players coming to Villa?
I don't know. I mean, look, Samuel Ealing Jr. is an Englishman. He did decently at Juve. We know English players, because of homegrown rules and so on, they're going to be more sought after and therefore be far more inflated in terms of price. So I don't know. I'd say right now, Villa did get lots of money for Douglas Luiz, and given how he's performed at Juve, I'd say, he's done a better job as things stand now. What is it, the 18th of November that we're discussing this? But of course, if Douglas Luiz starts hitting form, starts delivering and paying back some of that hefty transfer fee, you could make the argument, of course, that Juve did the better deal. But I mean, it's impossible to say anything right now. But other than so far, it's not been a good start. So
for Juve then this season, what would you say would be a successful season for them?
No, they have to qualify from the league stage of the Champions League. They have to reach some sort of a quarterfinal minimum, depending on the draw, of course, because I don't think they're going to finish in the top 8 now. I think they have to beat Villa to even have a chance. I had them as dark horses, as going really far to the semi-final, but I think after Bremer in ACL injury, that evaporated, because that chance evaporated, because that's how important he is. I think Juve have to finish in the top 4, of course. They should also be able to mount a serious title challenge, and maybe, retain a trophy or two. If they can retain their Coppa Italia crown, win the Supercoppa, that would be, given that this is the first year of the project, under Motta, somewhere there, finish, top 3, mount a challenge, win a trophy, get to the quarterfinal of the Champions League. That would be a decent season for them, given where they are.
So looking at the game ahead then at Villa Park, what sort of game do you think Villa fans should expect? How do you think Juve will come and set up, and what are your thoughts on Villa last season and this season under Emery?
I have the utmost respect for Emery. I think he was so poorly treated at Arsenal. I really rate him. He's a very tactically solid manager. I think he's very, very good at getting the best of the players at his disposal. I love his pragmatism. I like his solutions in the final third, but also defensively. And in a sense, he kind of mirrors, it's a mirror of Thiago Motta, in the sense that they are very pragmatic coaches. So I expect a very tactical battle. And I'm actually going to be very keen to see how this game plays out tactically, because I don't think either of them are going to give too much away in defensively. I think they're both going to try to outmaneuver the other by kind of neutralizing the other's threat, and then we'll see how it goes. But so it's definitely going to be an interesting tactical battle on the game itself. As for what Emery has done at Villa is truly remarkable. I mean, taking Villa to the Champions League is an unbelievable feature. Nobody expected that. He's been, as I said, I really rate him. I thought he was a bit unfairly mocked and treated at Arsenal, and I think he's getting he's showing his quality now at Villa. And it's going to be interesting to see how far what he can do with Villa in combining the Premier League and Europe.
Well, Nima, it's been great chatting you and having you on and having your insight on Juventus. So I'll tag your socials in the description and I'll put it on the title as well for you. So cheers for coming on, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, good pleasure. Happy to be on.